The name of this festival, Another World is Possible, is inspired by a 1994 letter that Subcomandante Marcos, the spokesperson of the Zapatistas' indigenous liberation movement, wrote to the people and governments of the world. And it's that driving concept of this other world, this better world, that's at the cusp of our imagination that drives the vision of Eden. And we wanted to, especially during this groundbreaking year of 2020 and the challenges that everyone has faced, to create a virtual convening space to bring together our community and share these stories of belonging and liberation. Eden Workshop is now 6 years in the making and 2 years open at our locations in DC and Hong Kong. Our mission is to build platforms that offer conditions for the self and the collective to actualize. I've taken my biggest influences in life, grassroots activism, underground art and music, and holistic wellness, and channeled that into the properties that have under one roof cinema, artist studios, music venues, community radio stations, and I wanted this space to really reflect that sense of something more profound.
Partnering with the right people in the community to make sure that we create a space that's protected, despite all of the systemic challenges of any aged industry like this one.
Do you want to be estranged from the community, or do you want to be part of the community? And I think it's easy for a business to just have profit in mind, but if you want to be part of the community, you have to have other things that are part of that bottom line.
Physically, for folks having a space to hold their meetings, for people coming from around the country to have a place to stay when they bring their struggle to the halls of Congress. Having this as a hub, it's critical, not only for our local folks, but also for our national and international activist community.
Re-envision how it uses spaces, how it could be a space of generosity, how it could help revive imagination, how it wanted to be a space for art and culture and also for social change.
What Another World looks like is finding our passions and being able to live in it and allowing for those things to support community, to creatively live out our life and be in community with one another, be in deep and right relationship with one another.
Another world is possible. It's not just something that's far off that one day we'll achieve. Rich, poor, black, white, indigenous, any color, living self-actualization, that is the beginning of a fractal that spins outward and touches all of us. I think back on older relatives, elders in my life and ancestors and everything the struggle that they were engaged in, and it's because their process of liberation, everything they accomplished so that I can live in this way, that was their own liberation. They lived it themselves. Our realities are also different, whether we're here on K Street or we're in the mountains in Chiapas, or we're in the bayou in Louisiana or in the redwoods in California. We can accomplish so much in this lifetime.
With this festival, Another World is Possible, the films and the content are no longer just films. They become part of a larger social change movement and an imagining of a better world.
Latia Casey Camp Hornick, Environmental Ambassador for the Ponca Nation of Oklahoma. Want to say thank you to Eden Workshops, Another World is Possible, and the support of Movement Rights. Movement Rights is a small nonprofit that helps us to support the rights of nature, and for the Ponca people, we have put that into a statute with the help of Movement Rights. And we also work hard on Indigenous rights and sovereignty and fight hard against the fossil fuel regime, doing the destructive work that they're doing against our Mother Earth. We know that this time is important for all of us to join together and to build this new system of belief that understands that we must live in harmony with all that is. And for those reasons, we're asking for your support. We'd like to ask you to donate to Movement Rights to help us to build even stronger movement together. And we would invite you as well to the December 5th showing of the Condor and the Eagle. And you get more information there. And I personally am asking you to sign a petition that Governor Stitt of Oklahoma is using as an attack on Indigenous sovereignty, another land grab on Indigenous people's territory. We need your help. Please join us. Thank you.
I'm very pleased to introduce Natalie Lolailai's film. We commissioned this film from her early, I think, January of 2019. Again, at Tomorrow Maybe in our gallery at Eden HK on the 4th floor. Natalie is, on one hand, a visual artist as she makes installations, video installations. On the other hand, she's also part of an important farming collective in Hong Kong called Sanwukgun, who were set up in early 2010s, 2012, as a response to the development of a railway which threatened agriculture as a part of life, a way of life in Hong Kong. So one will see in her video works that she connects agriculture and plants and natural environments with a lot of her work, and she's trying to understand how to communicate with them, and how can we learn from the natural evolution and organic developments of plant and organisms. So please enjoy the next video.
Okay, so thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us.
Oh.
Nat Lo is Lo Lai Lai is an artist in Hong Kong. who has worked with us on an exhibition.
Give no words but mums.
Give no word but mom. And your works are now showing in this festival. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Why don't you start with introducing yourself, like maybe some of the key themes of areas of exploration of your work.
And so thank you for inviting me and screen my works in the festival. I'm happy to share about my work, but at the same time, many people may be curious about why I work as a farmer at the same time, but it is indeed a very fruitful nutrition to my work. Because 10 years ago, my friend and I, we were in a movement that we are in the anti-high-speed railway and that's protect Choi Yun-chun movement. So that's the time I think even around the world, we are facing the development of the urban area. And so that's a case that we think about why we couldn't protect the, you can say, alternative life in Hong Kong. But at the time, it is very it's just a slogan. It was just we were all city girls, city boys. So it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense about you. It's just about maybe ethic or land justice. So at that time, some of my friends, they suggested that why don't we learn farming and experience what it actually was. So that's the way to start. So we learned farming 10 years ago. So luckily we have quite a few numbers of us that is quite dedicated to farming. So even we don't really earn a lot of money from that. So that's the starting point. So once we were in the changing of life, I found that the core issue is hard. It's hard to say change the system, but at the same time, it's hard to change yourself. Yeah, because 10 years ago, we thought that, it's hard to change the system. And so why don't we change ourselves and to see what we can do to experience, to explore the alternative life. But even after 10 years, I can only say when we were when we are now farmers, it's just like you are growing food, you try to earn money from the harvest. And that's a very interesting point that we put ourselves in the point we must see how we can go with the nature. Because if we are not a farmer, we could generally enjoy the greenery and scenery when we are traveling, and we can enjoy organic food and the cafe and so on. Yeah, it's just like consuming. Yeah, so you may take advantages of enjoying the greenery, but if you are a farmer, you can't really do that. So you can say in my work, I always has a hesitation on positioning, because I would see myself as human, but at the same time, I don't be concerned about the nature. We hope everything should be equal. So why we practice permaculture and try to make it a more sustainable, environmental friendly environment. However, it's just like a very naive, or it's too idealistic to achieve a sustainable environment, because even farming is an intervention to the nature. So it's not natural at all. And so after several years of conventional farming, although we start practice organic farming and we are embracing this sustainable one. And in our practice, we at every moment will decide what we do and what we should do. So that's the moments that I always have a hesitation, because, for example, you use the gasoline or you kill the caterpillars or kill any pest in for the harvest. Or, for example, the recent case is the wild wolf, or that's the wild pig coming to our farm. It's very common in Hong Kong now. So it's like every farmers, or even you ask your friend, did you see any of them? They will say, oh, I met some yesterday night. Yes. So it's really funny, but it's sad that they then they had quite a lot of damages we had from the visit. Yeah. And so after a few years, I could say in this flight, the one I sent to you, it was there were 3 years ago. So at that time, you will say I make a readers and I try to ask the audience to think what actually is the characters telling the story to us. So at that, and now I try not to say the answer first. So it is just like thinking or questioning about how human dealing well with nature, or how we could not. Or, for example, I talk about farming in the village and talk about some artificial entertainment, like a fish tank in the metro station, or I should is it like a furniture? Is this claimed to be eco-friendly furniture that was made by the recycled material? Yeah, and I always think that it is just like we are still consuming the nature. Yeah. So it is all about the design of human, because we hope to get the food, we hope to catch fish, and so that's why some people, they kept a dead bird. You can say in my reader, that was a dead bird hanging out. It's a town just next to it's a sea village, you can say. Yeah, it's a coastal village. Yeah, and because they hope to get some more fish, they just like handing out that bird and try to flatten the other bird not coming. Yes, so I will try to capture every moment that I thought. Actually, human is we are trying to get as much as we can. It's all about desire, but at the same time, for the other living organism, a so-called non-human organism, they are actually competing. Yeah, they are living, they have their own will, they all strive for food. So it's just that I don't want to say that why don't we kill all the people in the world and stay yeah, it's just back to the nature. I won't say so, because it is just like we are developing, the human make a lot of mistakes, but now how we can make a balance. And I found that this is really interesting and quite contemplating, that when I working as a farmer, I will find this is as a long all time questions to me. So that's why I found some of the ways that, for example, making essay films and illustrating this contradiction or struggles, yeah, of thinking. Yes.
In Like a Vein, No Hope, tell us about who is what is this obsessive or aggressive human nature in trying to get something or some answers out of the question? I think so. Maybe, okay, wait, let me just try that again. So I find there's two parts to this. There's one that's interesting. What is the role of the human being? Trying to extract something from other.
The nature.
But also in both this film, like A Vain, No Hopes, and Deep Flight, there is still the riddle. Like by the end of both of them, I'm still don't know who is speaking to whom. And I find that like a really unique form that you use. You know, I think it's in some way, even Fire, it's a little bit of this. The voice is so human, but it is not human. And so what is maybe we can talk about who that character is and what it symbolizes.
Yes. For the Deep Flight, I don't have the voiceover, but a script that is illustrating the story. And actually the character is water. Yeah. So that's a very quite typical or usual things we have. And it's just like, it's a usual use of metaphor that connecting human and nature, because we all composed of water, and the water is just like a vehicle that brings, for example, people migrating to the other places, or we brought other types of food or goods to in other continents. So I think that's a long history of human activities that we are quite familiar with water, but at the same time we are not really certain about what it is. And so as in the Like a Vain, No Hopes, I can't say that it's actually a characters in the story, but I could say the use of voiceover. I like the voiceover girl in my film, and she actually is working in the radio station. Yeah, that's a very quite popular DJ in the station. And I like her voice because it is like her voice was quite pretty and beautiful and sweet. And it's just like why we romanticize the nature. It's just like a very sweet appearance. But you would say she might have some hidden agenda in it. Yeah, that is just like, it is too sweet sometimes. And I was joking to my friends, it's just like whatever she said, it was just like some sweet things, or even she's saying something sad. Yeah. And my thinking on the film was quite simple, like what I said about, so the human try to get everything from the plant, and even as a farmer, we sometimes, or even for the ecologist or naturalist, they will try to discover what actually the nature is, try to distinguish particular plants or birds or whatever organism. So we are quite curious about what the nature is, and we try to discover by like observation or reading books or asking some expert. But my quite grand experience sometimes, that is, you can't really get the answer, or actually you don't need to know that. I mean the knowledge or some written knowledge in the book. When you're at farm, you are actually facing the plant or the organism. So what you need is you don't need to learn that in details. It's how you observe and interact and try to observe. It's just like when you're with your any partners in your relationships. It's just like you kind of determine who he is from their appearance or jobs or like or from astrology. So it's not really some factual things, but because everyone, even in human or organism, they change according to what you talk to them or what you treat them. So it is just like ironic. I try to suggest that actually it's no use you doing so. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After speaking to you, I mean, I had a question which was about metaphors, but
Right.
I don't know if, after speaking to you, I don't know if you actually use them as metaphors or if they're just a way of mirroring human nature. But why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes I use metaphor, but many of the it's kind of mirroring. Yeah, the characteristic or the gesture of human. Yeah.
So would you consider that some of them are also metaphors, or it's this kind of, I mean, I guess if we were to go down that road, I think metaphors are a projection of humans on like as
yes.
whether it's our myths or our own frames of references. We're constantly and you really highlight the human projection or need for answers or sense of control or really our own realm onto one thing.
I think metaphor is one of the way I use, but sometimes I try to make it like I put the logic in the installation too, like what we did in the tomorrow maybe. So it's just like because if you use metaphor, it might sometimes only limited to particular icons or object. And so sometimes I will do that, but at the same time, I will try to illustrate these gesture or mirroring with other use. Like I think of the installation, and I think of the mixed media installation I put in the gallery or the audience experience.
Do you want to tell us about media? Because there's TV, and then there's the radio voice, and also the radio in some of your works that tunes in for animals and humans alike. The role of media in.
That's my interesting question, and that's some people ask me about that, but frankly speaking, I don't have a very intentionally thinking at the beginning. Once I did slow show TV, and then sometimes I make a film having a radio station in the film. I mean, I try to tell the story by providing different channels in the radio station. It's just like the voiceover itself is a radio broadcast and telling the story in that way. Yeah. So I don't have a very clear intention using different media, but in returns, that is as a result, when I look back, I use quite a lot. Yeah, you can say.
And it's interesting because the way that you use media is also so it's so ominous. Like you're saying, this girl's voice is so sweet, but also that has her agenda. And I think in Slow So TV, the earlier versions, it's like you're clicking on a TV channel, right? You're
Yes.
clicking on a channel, which is so numbing. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of numbing. Like her voice on the background is like such a pretty voice, and it kind of like
Mm.
and shut down some of your emotions that you're not
Mm.
able to tell between the good and bad. Um, yeah, I mean, so maybe you don't have an intention, but that's kind of the way you experience the way you use media.
I can say even I have a clear intention why I use moving images. Yeah, not paintings or others, because I know I have a very complicated thinking on. Yeah, I have different perspective. Um I try to solving my own problems by doing moving image work, because when you're editing, you are trying to figure out what actually you're thinking. So that's why we call that as a film. And so I have a clear intention of why I use moving images. And for the other exploration on media, I would say when I'm editing the current film I do in WMA Commission, I could find my changing pattern on from the previous word. It is like I usually like self-talking a lot. It's just like you're floating the question to myself only. So I'm like quite enclosed or not really exposed to the others. But as a current word, I did a lot of conversation with my farming's members. So it's just like I try to find how the collectives could go longer or could go further. So I try to build up conversation. So that's the change that I find I quite cherish. I quite alert of what is communication is. Yes. So from the previous one, it's just like, did you remember some of my word I used the sign language? Yes. So at that time, I found that people might not understand us or understand me. So it's just like you try to express yourself in quite a difficult way, and it's just like a breakthrough of communication, how I could talk to the others. So I would say I have a thinking of maybe it might be related to I use a lot of ways like radio or television. They are all about communication. So besides it's called media, it is called communication. So how you deliver message to the others and how you show your own opinions or perspective. Mm-hmm. Mm.
One last question. Tell us about what beauty means to you.
Beauty, you mean?
Beauty, yeah.
Routine, you mean?
Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty.
Beauty.
And you can
Okay, I heard of routine.
it can also be the same.
Beauty. Okay. Beauty. Beauty means to me is I think authentic. I will relate it to first the authentic self. Yes, because I think if we give a lot of like mask on our own, or sometimes we don't know they are masked. So it's just like you're hiding your authentic self. You are not really true to yourself. So that is pretty sad because you cannot express who you are and what you try to look for. Yes. So I think beauty means if you can show your authentic self, or if you're on the way of searching it, looking for it, so that's beauty. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's
Yes.
good. Thank you so much, Paula.
好啦，拜拜 ，thank you 啊，
Put it now.
加油
Thank you.
，thank you，拜拜。
I'm really excited to present the next film by Alice Renzi and Andreas Guzman. Alice and I have been working on projects for a number of years together. She is one of few people who work tirelessly with independent dancers and choreographers in Hong Kong. And last year, at the end of 2019, we co-organized 24 Hours in Movement, Peg Legs, Hooked Hands Together at Eton. It was a 24-hour roving exhibition of dance and song and theater across the 21 floors of Eton HK. This is documents from that event. The documentation is captured by Andreas, so we're really pleased to have him back and editing the content with us and Alice this time again. And I'm also really pleased that she's brought in her personal story into this new edit. So thanks so much, Alice and Andreas, for creating this beautiful film which showcases the things that Eton HK can do for the city.
This year, I've lost the presence of my daughter in my daily life. When we were producing this day of performances, I hadn't anticipated that a few months later, I would lose the trial to her father and that she would move back to France, where she was born. I've always felt something in common with performance artists. I take to it like a duck to water. Andreas Guzman, the videographer, told me that this film had strong moments, but needed a common thread to bring the pieces together. Possibly a voiceover. I had the idea of doing an animation with the whales on the poster designed by Mildred. They represented the performative reading of Melville's Moby Dick, which also inspired the title of the festival, Pegged Legs, Hooked Hands. Two weeks before the screening, and with a tight budget, Howe offered to make the animation, which was, of course, humble. But it did not work. When I saw the first draft, it made me laugh so hard I cried. Even the name of the festival was misspelled. I didn't expect how ridiculous and funny it could be.
Let's shout it, express this moment with our voice.
When I saw what Howe had created, I wondered what he was thinking when he made it. Was he being artistic, or did he just not know? Later, I remember how Christopher Ross Ewart created the astonishing music I like so much for Howe's piece Pied à Terre in 2015. Was it really because she's born French and her grandparents lived in France that the judges decided it would be best for her to move back to France with her father? Nationality has lost its meaning to me. She's 9. I love taking care of her every day, especially walking to and from school together. I know, as clear as love, that I am an artist and a good mom. Distance doesn't change much, only the daily routine. It is what it is, a captain versus a whale. With performance artists, I take to it like a duck to water.
Alice is a very dear friend of mine. We've been working together since pretty much the setup of Eden HK. This is the 2nd anniversary, so I think it's nice to just mark that. You were actually there and you organized the program for the Human Progress Festival already, which was literally 2 years ago. And it's nice to be able to show the film of a festival that we organized together, Eden HK, which was really like a culmination of the small things that we did together before, since the opening of Eden. Hi, Alice. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself and you can also give us a little bit of background on your work.
My name is Alice Renzi. I am a freelance producer for contemporary dance and performance. And to give a little bit of background to the film, you mean? So this film is already, or?
I was going to ask you to give a bit of background to yourself, your own practice and who you are, and yeah.
In my practice as a producer, I love working with performance artists. It's been more than 10 years, and it is spanning from performances on stage. The major influence for me is still Raymond Hoger, the German choreographer. I worked for him as a manager for many years. And also a lot of non-staged performances, including museums and other spaces, like more private places, like homes. I'm interested in domestic space recently. But it's been a long time. I think the common thread in my interest is actually the performers. There's no specific style. Although my personal taste goes more for abstraction.
Okay. Tell us about the film 2020 Violent Year.
That film is commissioned by Eden HK. And it came with very few constraints, but quite strong in a way. The constraints included to use footage, video, images from films from the last year movement festival that happened in Eden HK. And these footages have been recorded by 2 videographers in desire at that time to document 24 hours of performances by different artists, a hectic program. And so we had all these footages to use. And another constraint was short time and also money. But apart from that, it was really opened. And very soon, we decided to not do a documentary or a kind of documentation like we can see sometimes on the websites of cultural institutions to promote, or I even have a look back at what they've done. So we didn't want to do that. So we have not tried to show everything that happened. And we tried to do something else and to also embrace freedom, following step by step what we thought could work and could not work, and little by little just building something that in the end we believe is working. I mean, it's still humble, but it's something that we find consistent.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the festival had? You want to tell us about, the parameters of the festival, and for people who weren't there?
Yeah, the festival happened in 2018. It's gathering a lot of different performance artists from Hong Kong and abroad, different dance styles. So there's an idea there to bring people together with a hip hop battle, with very like Cantonese opera performance. So the performers themselves are very different, and they are gathered in the same day, same space, in the same block and streets. And there's a big risk taking in this program as well. It's something uncommon, I think. And the artists who lifted the challenge, I think, treasured it, that they don't have a stage, so there's not that we give them the comforts of usual presentation for work, but the atmosphere around, and the creative space and the care that is given to them is creating something special. It's a space for research.
4 hours, right? I think.
Sorry?
It happens over 24 hours, which I think is an important part.
Yeah, it's an important data. Yeah, so in a way it's dense. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the space itself?
So there's no theater there. There's only one space inside Eton HK that can look like a stage. It's actually a cinema or projection room, which we haven't used that day except for screening film. So all the other spaces are streets, halls, restaurants, and spaces that are public as well. We didn't choose to perform, or none of the artists choose to perform in the rooms. So it's a circulation, and there's always people people who are passers-by, people who don't know, people who are there by accident. And that in a way gives a common taste to this day of performances, I think. So yeah, the space is more shaped by the people in the space than by the architecture, for instance.
Do you want to talk to us about the idea of about violence from the film, since it's in its title? And
yeah, violence is an obvious data from the film. So Andreas Guzman, he chose, I think, to show extracts of the performances that have violent elements. And it's very clever from him, because there had been a lot of these performances that were showing violent movements. And it's stronger in the beginning of the film. And it's also doubled by the other dimension in the film, which is the voiceover and the narration of the personal story of the narrator, who has a personal struggle with family, daughter separation, divorce. And there's another reference with Moby Dick's book, Melville's book, Moby Dick, with another battle and quest and craziness. But I have noticed watching the film that we have no sadness in the film. So there's struggle, but not sadness. And there's also peace, and it comes more in the end, toward the end of the film, with the movements from the last performers that we see, from Sodom Ock, who is way more spiritual in a way, like definitely visibly connected to something holistic or religious, at least traditional, very ancient. And the violence is also quite absent from the voice. The voice is happy in a way. Just the text and the elements, the reality that are described are hard. So that violence is really balanced here. And I think it is essential because we are still in violent times. Many people are, and it's still possible to go through. And this film reflects that, I think. It's not meant to cry or be sad, not at all. Just go through.
And I notice a lot of, use of metaphors in performance and in dance. Do you want to talk about performance and metaphor and where metaphor lives in this festival and this film?
So interestingly, it's very connected to me. It's like very parallel concepts, performance and metaphor. Because it comes naturally in a performance that metaphor will be created, and maybe it's like an opportunity given to people to grab it and make it a metaphor or not. My understanding of performance is that it changes perception, it changes a space, or it transforms something. It's a passage, it's a way through something else. Doesn't matter what or how, in a way. And it means nothing. It can be really anything. And it is such an unframed thing that by essence it's very metaphoric, potentially. Because there's no preset, sometimes program or idea, or it's not even planned. It's and I think it's very last minute. I think even projects that are planned way in advance and very organized always must have or have improvisation elements. And I mean, by improvisation, I don't mean, okay, I will do the same improvisation as usual that sometimes we see in dance shows. No, true improvisation, like whatever the time will bring, whatever the context will bring, will be in this performance, in this happening. So it's like essence, or in a way, this is in performing arts, but it's 10 times more in performance, because that's the focus. And a performance doesn't have to be even on purpose. It can be like the people who are passers-by in the performance, and we see a lot of them in the film, we see many of them in the film, they are performing as much as the professional dancers or performing artists who are doing something that they have thought of. And as well, they are together with the audience members, all part of a performance and working for that performance, even if they don't know and there's no agreement on that. Mm-hmm. And this I find very interesting. Actually, there are famous performance artists like Xavier Leroy, who have researched for many years recently about the contracts around the performance. And what they want to do, they want to destroy this contract. I think they want to research, there's no boundary. Why we have to sit in a theater in the dark and look all in the same direction, and everybody knows that they cannot speak, cannot stand up, or how we know that? Why is this rule there? There's no contract, let's just break it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is in performance, to refuse, reject the frame. So it's all unexpected. That's why it has a lot of last minute elements in this festival. It's quite risky, and that's why it's so metaphoric as well. It's up to people to catch it or not.
And then on the last question, tell us about beauty. And I know that we've had discussions, and in a way, it was even one of the very invisible starting points for the way that we were thinking about this festival. It's like something that you continue exploring because of your own research into French literature as well, and so on. So why don't you share about that concept for you?
Yeah, so first I want to give a little bit of context that there was also the possibility of talking about love, but and in a way both are very huge topics that are complicated to talk about, because love is definitely something that exists and is important, but language, when we put words on it, strangely for me, I just feel that it's counter-performative. It makes it disappear. It's not there when we talk about it. It's not something to talk about in a way. You cannot talk directly about love. But beauty is a little bit different. And it's strange, I don't know why. Because, but anyway, we can start from a detail about beauty that's related to violence. When we decide, people who decide to be honest and acknowledge the struggles in everywhere, beauty becomes a controversial topic, or something that can be considered a luxury or not a priority, or something maybe something not decent. And I understand that, but my experience is that in the confrontation with the worst difficulties I have encountered, beauty is a safety vest. It's like, it's the only thing that's left. And like violence, it's an answer to violence, but it's also a common point for artists in my definition. My personal, from my heart, an artist is, I think many people are artists, even people without talent, I like to say. You don't need to be talented to be an artist. And some talented people, I wouldn't believe they are artists to me. But who I believe is an artist is these people who have a connection with something high up there. And that relates to literature, this idea that the poets have this scaffolder that they can climb, and it's a lonely place up there, but they are different. But it's it's there, and it's the reason why I think they continue to create through. You go up there sometimes, and it makes it continue. It fuels art. Yeah, and violence is also something that artists experience. I'm sure it's all related. You cannot have access to this without violence.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about film, or?
I think what I want to add that since this performance program is taking risks as a program, it's nice that it can be repeated. Repetition is really also a very treasurable element in performance. For the performers, but with the 24 hours in movement, the very amazing aspect for me as a producer and organizer is that we also get the chance to experiment on the format, and to have the chance on top of this opportunity to do it again is truly amazing. Because usually in performance art, when a show can be repeated several times, it's good for the show. but then the producer is just producing the same thing. But here we are giving the chance to the format to evolve, and this is something it's my first time to experience that. I don't think I don't have in mind any other platform like that. So I'm very excited about it.
So I want to say thank you, and yeah, thank you also.
I also want to say thank you to you and the people who allow this space to exist. I think it includes even more people than those I know. A lot of the people in the staff there. Yeah. And please continue. Don't change.
I'm really excited to present the next filmmaker, Kong Ki, who is a very close friend of Eaton. He did an exhibition with us this year called Moon in the Water. And inside of our gallery, tomorrow maybe, in Eaton HK, the exhibition featured 3 videos, which we'll see now. Kong Ki is a very well-respected comic artist and animation artist in Hong Kong. He has produced different strands of comic, including one that's a humorous penguin that reflects in a lighthearted way about the city. But what he's probably most known for at this point is an animation, a full-length animation feature called Dragon's Delusion that he's been working on for 4 or 5 years now. While he's only produced a full 20 minutes of the film, it's an ongoing project that could take anywhere from 5 to 10 years, and he's completely dedicated to creating this project. A bit of a summary on the project. Dragon's Delusion looks back at a really important historical, almost mythological figure, Wat Yun, who is told in ancient Chinese stories about he's a maybe controversial or questionable figure, or there are many interpretations on this figure. Because he's known as a patriot, and at the end of his life, he throws himself into a river. He's also remembered because there is a festivity that honors his death every single year. In Kong Ki's film, he is revived because it's a world where there are cyborgs, and so the story is that he comes back to life, and he's trying to look for his own past purpose, or why he threw himself into this river. The exhibition, Moon in the Water, with the 3 films inside of Eaton, took place this year, and in a very simple way, it removes itself from the content of this animation, this heavy animation that he's created, and really just tries to get back to pure emotions. So if you were to step into the exhibition, what you feel are emotions, and what you're most likely to feel is immense sadness. So while you watch this, I invite you just to step into a space and be immersed in a space where you can feel authentic emotions and potentially a heavy sadness, as things are quite difficult in the world right now.
Hi, Kongke. Thanks for
Hi.
being here. Hi. So Kongke is a comic artist and animation director from Hong Kong. He has been working on a film project called Dragon's Delusion since I want to say 2012. Is that right?
Yes,
Oh,
the Dragon's Delusion you can go back to 2012. Yes.
And he recently did an exhibition at our gallery at Eden HK tomorrow, maybe, titled Moon in the Water. Do you want to give us your own introduction of yourself and
Yes.
the exhibition, and maybe also an introduction to Dragon's Delusion, since
Okay.
you partnered on that?
Okay. Maybe the exhibitions first. Moon in the Water is the exhibition that about time, especially after the pandemic and the social movement last year, that I want to share the feeling and digest the feeling and share it with the audience, that what we have been gone through, not exactly gone through, I think we are still in the mud, and we didn't survive properly right now, but by that time it's like after spring and the early summer. I have a feeling that we didn't express ourselves properly after all these years. So I trying to use this exhibition and the animation work to capture some important feelings and put it in the exhibition through the animations, and create a meditation, like environment for audience to settle down, to be calm, and to face their own feeling also. So this is the theme that for the exhibition. And for the Dragon Delusions is also a animation project about our city, which we're trying to make Hong Kong sci-fi animations, which like a love letter to our city, that I trying to illustrate our love and hate, and our memories, and how we how we interact with our city or history. So to put it into a new sci-fi story, this is the Dragon's Delusion.
Can you tell us about the three video works in Moon in the Water?
Yeah. The first one is called I Lost Myself Most of the Time. This is the first pieces that you audience will see when they start getting in the gallery. This is an animation of a walk cycle that I'm illustrating a man walking in the water, in the river. So the head is up on the water and the body is inside the water. During the walk cycle, the head will disappear, and they have a different timeline. So it's like a feeling of myself during most of the time. I didn't know where I will go, what I'm doing, and and where's my mind and body is not synchronized. It's just kind of this massive feeling is expressed in this work, this short animation work. Yeah. And there's a second work called You Can Never Step in the Same Street Twice. The idea is come from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. He had a famous statement that you cannot step into the same river twice. That means the time is keeps changing. You cannot go back time. Even you step in the same river, it is not the same river because it keeps changing. The water will throw, and I want to keep this I think this is so poetic. I still keep this idea in mind, and so I made two separate projection of animation. They look very alike, but they have a tiny little things difference. Maybe if you so I have to force our audience to choose which is the beginning, which is the end. With their with different choice, they will get different endings. Sometimes the ending is sad, sometimes the ending is happy. So this is what my concept of time. Time is keep changing. What is the relationship of time and myself? Until we make some decision, we make our choice, we don't really interact with the time. So by choosing the ending, the audience interact with my animations. This is the feelings of time that I want to create it, and want the audience can feel it. And so I create a meditational like environment, ambient, for them to settle down. The room is so dark, and you heard the soundtrack of the rivers flowing, and I'm trying to convince them to settle down, to keep calm, and to look quietly, and try to hear what their heart is thinking through. So this is the work of the second work. And the last work is quite direct. It's called The River. I drew the Hong Kong landscape. I drew the scene that we always saw in the newspapers, or the scene that we capture from the movement. Part of it, like the gas, like the rubbish on the street. The river is like this. There are many elements on the street, like the building, like the car, like the people. They are they are flowing on the river, just like garbage. If you look, it lasts like 5 minutes. When you look in the middle, you will think even the large landscape, even like the giant building, they just they just gone like garbage. So it's quite sad, and it's quite negative, I guess. that everything will gone. What you really care, this thing that even you care so much, somehow they will gone. And but I'm not saying that because they were gone, so they are meaningless. What I really want to say is I feel really sad that they have to go on. So this is the feeling that I want to share in the last piece of this exhibition. Yes.
Do you want to tell us about the element of time in your work?
I guess because time.
Do you want to tell us about the element of time in your work?
I guess because time. I love the idea of time because we all suffer from it. We always think if we can, it will be great if we can go back time, we can rewind it. After some decision we made, we want to change it, but in the actual life we can't. So but in the artwork or in the animation, we can change the timeline easily. So I guess somehow playing with the video or playing with the of the time-based artwork, you have a feeling that you get control of everything. But of course, it's just an illusion. But but it gives you a feeling of that somehow you can take control of something. which in actual life you can't. So I love that feeling. So I guess in my work, time is so important. Time is together with memory, because if you didn't been through a lots of time, or if you never lost something, you don't know the existing of time. You feel pain until you feel this something exists until you feel pain. If you lost something, you have to now you know, the time is gone. Or you lost someone, or then you know time is gone. In a positive way, this is another way around, because time's gone. So maybe you hate each other a long time ago, but because time gone, you can be friends together. Somehow it's like that. But time emphasize the volume and the feeling of some specific thing or people or emotion. So time is so important for us to feel, or to know what is really important for yourself. So I guess I like this topic so much.
Let's talk about emotions and grief.
And grief, yeah.
And
I before this exhibition, I'm not the one that share feeling easily. I'm not the one that get very easy to say what I'm thinking and what I feel. I want to cry, blah blah blah. I'm not that kind of person. But I always try to analyze how to make a work more sufficient, more powerful, like a machine. But after all these years, I guess I didn't really take care of my emotion properly. So a part of me is suffering from this. So I realized this last year and during the process of creating this exhibition. So I guess when I'm saying that I try to share my feelings, it's about I'm dealing with a loneliness. What I'm going to do is I just put my feeling there, and if someone find that they also get this kind of feelings, maybe it help a little bit to release some loneliness, because you are not the only one that feel lonely. I hope I can help a little bit, and by this exhibition, the audience help me to think, or help me to recover a little bit, because we all suffer together. So it help. The problem is still there, but the feeling can relieve a little bit. So so this is the what I'm trying to do with my emotion for this exhibition.
do you want to speak about the place of the mythology and so this, I don't know if here if there's a place of metaphors and the use of metaphors and mythology in the exhibition. I guess you also do quote from Heraclitus, that's historical philosophy, but there are seem to be different types of metaphors, whether it's in
Mythology inspire me a lot, but I guess I use them in the comics more than in the exhibition, because the exhibition somehow, when you look back, is quite realistic. It's too realistic. It's the icon and the stuff that you can relate to the real world so easily. And I for mythology work, I guess I I like, if this is a mythology work, it have to give you more space to imagination. And I guess the moon in the water is not have enough space for people to imagine. So if you look at my comics, it maybe have more taste of mythology, because I use some fairy tales and historical story. Like, for example, the main character Xu Yuan is a poet that in our history, like 2,000 years ago. His work is so beautiful, so poetic, so have a lots of anthology. How to say that word? 享受我成日都噏唔到嗰個字。nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia. Yeah. Which like like I'm working on a sci-fi story, right? So mythology is kind of like a sci-fi in their time. They trying to imagine something that beyond their reality, and using their understanding of time, understanding of humanity, and to create a new world. They don't know there's a world called outer space or galaxy, but we have a story about 嫦娥 that fly to the moon. It's a space odyssey story, right? So the mythology for me is a sci-fi story of ancient time. How they imagine the universe. Yeah.
Since the exhibition allowed you to tap into emotions and process them, has creating these works shifted you or changed you in a way?
Yes. It's like switching on a button that you cannot switch back. And I really after the exhibition, my comics is more like it's more soft. The scene is more simple, and what I'm going to do is I'm trying to relax in front of the papers, trying to find a moment that I can concentrate, which I guess many artists can do this a long time ago when they start creating their work. But I'm using a different engine before. Now I guess it helped me to understand myself more. It's really, I think it's really a big thing for me after these years. Yeah.
And then last question, tell us about beauty. What does it mean to you?
I don't know.
You use the word Yun's poems are so beautiful. So what is beauty to you, and in your work or in literature? Yeah, what is, however you want to answer.
When you're doing your work and or someone can really get burning, get on fire, using his energy to sparkle, or to like the fuel to burn on something, to give light, to give energy, give warmth. So it's the beauty that I saw amongst the work. It's not about technique, it's about the spirit and the characters of these artists or all the artists. If you can feel the energy, the life energy that he is crazy in it, you can find the beauty of such work. Yeah, this is enough. Yeah, yeah.
I think we're good. I think that was a really wonderful interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.